Who's seen Con Mom on Netflix? Because we need to talk about it. And of course, you already know that I took notes. This story follows Graham Hornigold and how he's reconnected with his mother that he hasn't seen from birth, named Dion. It is about an hour and a half documentary and it's available now on Netflix. Now let's get into the details, okay? So, like I said, Graham Hornigold is the main person in this documentary, okay? He is a pastry chef and he lives in London. What he knows is that he was born on a military base, like English military base, okay, in Germany. His father then took him from that military base back to England. At some point, he was adopted for about 2 years and then he went back in the custody of his dad, but his dad never talked about his mom, okay? Ever. So Graham meets Heather. They hit it off, okay? And they decide, like, our stars are aligned, honey, and we are seeing eye to eye. She also does pastry chef work, okay? So they start pastry consulting business. They start dating, okay? They're living their life. So one day, Graham finds his birth certificate and it has his mama's name on it, okay? So him and Heather start to searching, but they can't find anything, so they kind of give up, okay? During this time, Heather and him, I think they get married. She ends up getting pregnant, okay? Shortly after, they can't find no information about his mama. Shortly after this, COVID hit, okay? So they was living their best life. They was cooking, reading, doing hobbies, eating, all the things, okay? They said it was like the best time in their relationship, which was not the case for most people, as we know. Next thing they know, they get an email out the blue from a lady that says she is his mama. So, of course, he starts asking questions because he ain't just going to believe that this woman is his mama. So she's talking about he was born in Germany. He was like, most people don't know that, okay? Like, so you can do a little Google search and find that out, okay? They were asking questions about, like, what's his middle name? She was like, if he has one, I didn't give him one, which he didn't have a middle name. Like, all these things. So they're like, things is checking out, okay? So they go to Liverpool to meet her. Okay. She said she had a hotel set up for them and everything and was like, no worries. It's all on me. So they meet up. As soon as I saw this picture, I said, that is his mama. Okay. They got the same nose, everything, right? Because at first I was like, maybe this woman ain't his mama. That's his mama. Heather said Graham was in right away. Mind you, she real pregnant at this point, okay? And said that they had the same mannerisms and everything. Dion, she said that she used to go by Teresa, okay? So we're just gonna call her Dion. Dion was telling Heather, I'm excited to have a son. And not only that, I got a daughter in law and a grandchild on the way, okay? So she was like, I get all this when I was just expecting a son. So Dion and Graham, they go speak together alone. She tells him she has months to live because she has cancer, okay? And all she wanted to do was find her son after 45 years. Because now that she's dying, that's her dying wish, is to find him. They end up going on a little road trip to see the ocean and everything, or see the sea. Because she said she just wants to see it one last time. You know what I'm saying? Because she's dying. She tells him she has businesses all over the world, okay? All these different kind of farms and things, and that she speaks 18 languages. Now, he did say he heard her on the phone a lot of times talking about business in different languages. So, but everybody on the phone was calling her mama, and she was saying that they did that because she gave all this money to the villages. So after a few weeks, she comes to London. Where she want to stay? Five-star hotel, of course. Cause come on now, let's get it right, okay? And she is ordering champagne, huge meals every day. Okay, when I tell you watching this documentary, this woman loves her some champagne, honey. Okay, she be drinking. So she was just moving from one five-star hotel to the next five-star hotel, and everywhere they went, people knew her at these hotels, okay? Like sitting her in the middle of the restaurant, talking to her as if like she was a frequent guest at these hotels. And so he starts asking like, where are you getting all this money from, mama? Okay. She said it's because of her business acumen. Remember, she got all them businesses in all them different countries and stuff, okay? And she's the illegitimate child of the former Sultan of Brunei. Okay, and they real rich. So they end up going to the Dorchester. They said everybody knew her, okay, from the doorman to the concierge to everybody. And coincidentally, okay, the hotel is owned by the Brunei royal family. So they were like, she got to be a part of the family then if all these people know her, clearly. At this point, she just starts buying a ton of gifts for Graham, right? Because she's like, I got to make up for these 45 years that I've been out of your life. So she starts buying all kind of stuff. She tells him, the ultimate thing I'm going to get you is a car. Got you, boo. Okay. So they go to, I think, like the Rolls Royce dealership. Okay. And the people know her. They're like, she just bought 2 Phantoms from us. Where they at? I don't know. But she just bought them. Okay. So he ends up not getting the Rolls Royce. Okay. He ends up going to the Range Rover dealership, gets him a Range. Okay. And then he was like, she said, you can't have a car and Heather don't have a car. So she ends up buying Heather a BMW. She said, I got you, boo. You also included. So a few weeks later, Heather goes into labor, okay? Mother calls shortly after and says she has passed blood. She sent a picture of the blood that she has passed, which was part of her medical diagnosis. They had Googled it. So he gets his mom from the hotel, so they're all in the same house at this point because he was like, I can't be back and forth. My mama dying. I got a new baby. Like, we just need to bring everybody together. So that's what he did, okay? Heather said Dion changed after that, okay? She started trying to rule everything. She was real mean to her, talking about she was stubborn and all these other things. And so her and the mama is clashing at this point. So 2 months after they give birth, okay, Dion is like, me and Graham needs to go to Switzerland so I can sign over all my bank accounts to him, okay? Because once I die in a few months from this cancer, he needs to take over all my money and my businesses, okay? And Graham is like, yes, I'm about to get some money, okay? Heather is kind of on board because she's like, that's fine by me because this woman is getting on my last nerves. So while there, she tells him he needs to open up a Swiss bank account, okay? And they meet with all these different bankers and whatnot. And of course, they check into a 5-star hotel. Because what less would we do, honey, okay? He calls his friend to meet up with him. He lives in Switzerland, okay? The banker comes, they go to the head of the bank to sign the papers after hours. So the bank ain't even open. So they like, this woman really got money because who's opening the bank to sign some papers in this upper room, okay, if you ain't got the money in the banks? But the kicker is they did all that and didn't sign not a thing, okay? Anyway, so Heather looks at the accounts because she's looking like, what's going on here? And it was a huge amount transferred to Dion. And it was 25,000 pounds. Okay? And this was for the visit to London. Okay? They were supposed to spend 4 days in Switzerland. Then, since they hadn't signed the paperwork, they were like, we need to add a few more days on to stay in Switzerland so we can get this paperwork done, right? They're saying that, like, she's on the phone regularly with her accountant, her lawyer, and the banker. Constantly on the phone with them. Still ain't no paperwork, though. But she's on the phone with them every single day. She meets with them regularly in person. It don't take that long to draw up no papers. So remember I told you his friend came to visit the hotel. So he been there like every other day chilling because his friend is in town. You know what I'm saying? And his mama is buying champagne every day. So she tells him like, well, since you're such good friends with my son, I'm going to buy you a house. So they go look at houses the next day. Okay? When they looking at the houses, Graham goes into another room. They looking whatever. And she tells the friend like, look, I'm going to buy you this house, okay? But I'm going to need you to be generous in return and give me some money because that's the way it works. I give you something, you give me money in return. He was like, hell the fuck not. So he didn't tell Graham any of this because he was like, you know, Graham was living his best life with his mama, reconnected. And the trip, though, became longer and longer and longer, okay? And still not a paperwork in sight, honey, okay? So Graham is thinking like he can't leave her because his mama is going to be gone soon. You know what I'm saying? But Heather is at home with a newborn baby. Like, if you don't get your ass back home, okay? So while they're there, they start meeting other people in the hotel because clearly You just there. Mind you, their whole trip to Switzerland was about 2 months. It was supposed to be 4 days. Yeah. So they meet a couple there. She says she's going to invest in their company. She's going to get 20% of their company for 2.5 million francs. Okay. She done told the whole spiel. I'm the illegitimate daughter of Brunei, all these things. Okay. And so they were like, okay, great. This is amazing. Signed contract and everything. Why she ain't on the hook for this money? I have no idea, because she did sign that paperwork. Okay. So then she starts taking money from the couple. She's like, and one of the ladies in the couple is Asian. She said that in Asian culture, it is customary that if you receive a gift, you give something back, right? So this is her shopping with them. Okay, they bought her clothes, champagne, because remember I told you the girl liked to drink, honey. Okay, but they couldn't tell Graham. This is one of the coats that they bought her, and they said it was $8,000. Yeah. So at this point, Heather got questions, because she said the shit is not adding up, okay? But Dion started to push Heather away, because clearly Dion knows the jig is going to be up if Heather gets her claws up into Graham to let him know, like, this bitch is a scammer, okay? So she would try to jump off the balcony, he said, in the middle of the night, and just be like, I'm just going to eat it all right now. And so he was like dealing with this also with Heather being like, you need to come home, okay? So it was a lot that he was dealing with all at the same time, and also paying for all this stuff that his mama needed to pay for because her money was tied up and couldn't be transferred. So at this point, it's getting closer and closer to Christmas, okay? And Dion doesn't want him to go back, but Heather is like, if you don't get your ass back here right now, okay, we're going to have a problem, okay? So he returns Christmas Eve, like nth hour, and he's like, I'm home now. Heather is pissed, okay, as she should have been, because she's like, sir, you came home last minute, like you ain't been going for 2 months. So this whole time, Dion is trying to guilt trip him, like, I was trying to spend Christmas with my son, this, that, and the third, and you just left me, blah, 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 blah. So they had already planned a trip to New Zealand, I think towards like the end of January, beginning of February, so that Heather's family could meet the baby, okay? And they were supposed to go as a family. Dion was like, no. Okay, so she's trying to tell him, like, I'm dying soon. You can't go to New Zealand. She starts telling him that the doctors now say she has weeks to live, possibly days. So he don't know what to do. He just got his mama back. His wife want him to go to New Zealand. So what he choose? He choose to go see his mama, okay? And Heather goes to New Zealand by herself with the baby. She is pissed, as she should be. So while Graham is going home for Christmas and January and stuff, his mama, Dion, meets Pang, okay? He's an Asian man. He has a business associate that he's trying to connect with Dion, because remember, Dion got all this money, okay? So she said that she's going to give them 60 million, okay, for this cutting edge, it was like a medical thing or whatever, right? So in return, because again, in the Asian community, you receive a gift, you give a gift. They were like, we're going to give you this cutting edge treatment, because it was a cancer treatment. And she was like, no, because I only have a little bit to live. So don't put that on me. Give me instead $50,000. And they say yes. So at this point, she's done in Switzerland. She go back to London, because she done scammed enough in Switzerland. She go back to London, and now she got an apartment. Not just a regular apartment, high-rise floor-to-ceiling windows, okay? And he is coming over there. She's now paying for everything, okay? Because clearly she done scammed these people out this money in Switzerland, so now she got money to spend in London, okay? So his childhood friends and everything, they come into the apartment, sipping champagne with his mama, living it up. So Graham starts to talk about his childhood, because I kept thinking, like, where is his daddy, and why is he not asking his daddy no question about this woman who just popped up? He said that his dad was an alcoholic and was abusive. Well, Heather said that, and he just kind of confirmed it. And then he said the last time he saw him, he was 18. He did say he has a scar on his skull from when he was 7, and his father got abusive. Okay, so that's why his father is nowhere to be seen. Rightfully so. Okay. So Heather finds out that he took out credit cards for his mama, okay, has been spending more money on his mama. And she's like, what is going on? Because I thought she was supposed to be paying for all this stuff. Come to find out, we actually paying for it, right? No, ma'am. Why are we doing this? So in Zurich, he spent about 15 to 20k euros. Okay. In London, he spent about another 20k euros. The second time she came to London, so the first time, remember when she was at the hotel, that was the 20k. The second time she came to London, when she got that in an apartment, he spent another 10 to 15k. Okay. On credit cards, he spent about 20 to 25k. Okay. So total, it was about 100k. At this point, the car payments start coming out. Okay. Not of her account, of Heather and Graham's account. Okay. So she is like, what the fuck is going on? So, of course, here's Dion saying, I'm going to be paying, or whatever. So Heather is like, what the hell is happening? So the mom paid the deposit and was paying the car notes. Okay. Then he started paying once she stopped. They were in the hole for them cars about 180k. Because remember, it got a Range Rover and a BMW. Okay, so now they on the hook for that. And so total is about 300,000. At this point, Heather is like, I need to save my husband, okay? Because this is crazy. So she calls his friend in Switzerland, the one where he was going to get the house, and the mama asked for the money. He was like, red flag. And the friend was like, yeah, she's a scammer. Let me tell you about what happened when we went to go look at this house, okay? So Dion and Graham got to go back to Switzerland because remember, they got to sign this paperwork that ain't never been drawn up. You know what I'm saying? So she started telling people that he had emptied her accounts, okay? So this is why she needed money. And that the lawyers had her other accounts because, you know, she was dying. Okay. So they gave her another 10,000 euros. This was the couple that was in Switzerland. So at this point, Heather starts researching Dion because she's like, the shit is not adding up. Okay. And so she said it was hard to track her because she had so many different name changes. But because Heather is a G, she ends up finding that she has been married, I think, 3 times, okay? And on her marriage certificate, she got different birth years. She been scamming, okay? So her first marriage, it says she was born in 1940. Her second marriage, it says she was born in 1950. Okay? And on each marriage certificate, there's a different father listed along with occupation. Whole different name and everything. Okay. So Graham has stopped listening to Heather because, you know, Heather and the mama is beefing. So he's like, this is crazy. So when he's with the friend, his friend was like, why don't she ever have the money? And if she's dying, why is she healthier than all of us? Make it make sense. So Graham, his wheels start turning. He's like, you right, friend. Okay. So Graham gets to snooping when he get back to the hotel room, okay? And finds red food coloring, okay? And he's like, wait a minute. She sent me that picture of when she passed blood. It must be from this. Okay, so then he confronts her about the red food coloring. And she basically tells him that it's Chinese medicine. Yeah. Okay. And then she had a bunch of medications she was taking. So he starts Googling what all these medications are for, finds out none of them are to treat cancer. They all for like hypertension, high blood pressure, all that stuff, right? So high cholesterol, whatever. So now he's upset because he's making all these choices thinking that his mama is going to die. Okay, very soon. So everything is like rash decisions, quick decisions, because you got to make something real quick because your mama is about to die. Okay, and you just got reconnected with her. So he realizes that he is drowning in debt because of this woman. Okay, so Heather goes to the police and they like, this old lady cannot be scamming nobody. Like, if you don't go sit down and talk to the fraud department, and they like, she is in a wheelchair. She is 70 years old. She is not a criminal mastermind. Please go sit down somewhere and leave us the fuck alone, okay? And they're like, he can't be scammed because this is his mama. Like, whose mama would do this? 10 months after Pang, so Pang is the Asian guy who tried to give her the treatment, everything like that. Ain't no money given still, okay? No investment, no nothing, right? So he contacts the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Brunei. They say she ain't related to us, okay? He is now deeply in debt as well because she didn't ask him for more money and more money and more money, okay? So he goes to her directly. She says, I will never forget what you have done for me. No, bitch, where's my money? Okay? I don't... Where is my money? Okay? He said he gave her over 150,000 euros. I don't need you to not forget what I did for you. I need my money. So at this point, he calls Graham, okay? Because he's like, F this bitch, okay? He calls Graham. Graham is shook by all this information because he's like, wait a minute. When she was in London, we living off of his money. That's how she got this apartment. That's how she got this, da da da. So he tells him she's been talking about him because remember she would be bad mouthing Graham, talking about he took all her money and stuff, right? And not to tell him anything about the money that they was given to her. And Graham was like, not me thinking that this is her money. At the end of the day, if you got money to buy an apartment, you got money to pay me back. I'm just saying. So at this point, he asked for a DNA test. Now, I showed you the picture before. That is his mama, okay? But it still could be a possibility. So he asked for a DNA test, and he asked for one when they first met. And she told him, like, either you believe me or not. Bitch, take this swab. Okay, that's what I'm going to believe. So finally, they do a DNA test. 1,000% is his mama. 99.99999%, it is his mama. Okay, we saw the picture. That was his mama, okay? The last time he saw her was around the time they took that DNA test. Because I guess at that point, everybody, the jig was up, okay? He had talked to Pang, so he knew that it wasn't her money. He realized that she was scamming him. So she just ghosted him at this point, okay? The couple she met in Switzerland, they spent about 100K on her. Clearly, they ain't got none of their investment money, okay? And then she just cut off all communication with everybody. Okay, she didn't talk to her son. Graham was trying to contact her, make sure she was okay, checking in with her, you know, and basically being like, how could you do this to your son? What's wrong with you, girl? He also said he only knew her for about a year and calls her Dion now instead of mom. Rightfully so, okay? Heather is still searching because Heather is like, you done screwed up my family, okay? She is still looking for information about Dion, okay? She has called different hotels. Hotels were scammed by her, basically saying she didn't have no payment, so she left like 2 diamond rings for payment. Yeah, them things were not real. Of course. Like, why don't you get something checked out before you just say thanks? Girl, no. It's getting Anna Delvey, okay? One man, he was out 41,000, okay? About $41,000. He said that he gave her this money in January 2020. He was in Indonesia. That's where he was, okay? And this is right before she met Graham. So this was the money that she was spending at the hotels and things like that when she met Graham, was this man's money. He also said that she scammed a bunch of people out of some money for like a trip that she was planning, this Muslim trip that ain't nobody go on. Graham said he probably would not have met her if lockdown did not happen, because when she looked at her ticket, her plane ticket, she had a return flight to Bangkok. But then, of course, here is lockdown, so she got to figure out a way to scam people so that she can keep her lifestyle up, okay? So Heather is still digging. She finds out at 41, Dion was jailed for fraud in 1984. Told you, she been scamming, okay? So Graham realizes this is who she been his whole life, a scammer, okay? Because at that time, I think he was like 9 or something like that in 1984. Anyways, she calls him after a year on the FaceTime. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. Where is my money? I don't want a sorry. I want my money. To this day, Dion hasn't faced any criminal charges, okay, and didn't respond to comment for the documentary. Graham and Heather are separated. I think Heather and the son live in New Zealand. There's no evidence that the banker and the lawyer that she was meeting in Switzerland were in on the fraud. Okay, child, when I say this was a doozy of a doozy, let me know. Have you seen Con Mom? Because this shit is crazy.